At dawn on June 24, a surprise assault unfolded over the Black Sea, marking an unprecedented turning point as Ukraine executed a three-layered drone strike strategy, obliterating Russia's coastal defense network valued at tens of millions of dollars in just 5 minutes. At precisely 4 a.m., Ukraine launched one of its most sophisticated UAV campaigns of 2025 in Crimea, simultaneously targeting two critical components of Russia's coastal defense system: two Cerna-class amphibious vessels tasked with ferrying special forces and weapons from bases to the front lines, and the Tor M2 air defense system, responsible for detecting and intercepting drones, helicopters, and cruise missiles at close range. The operation aimed not only to destroy physical targets, but also to disrupt Russia's strategic defense framework, crippling its control over the sea and southwestern Crimean coastline. For 3 weeks, Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Agency, HER, special forces covertly monitored all movements along Crimea's eastern coast, particularly near the Kherson shoreline. Satellite imagery, reconnaissance UAV signals, and enemy radar data analysis revealed that the Tor M2 system served as the linchpin in protecting the amphibious corridor near Sevastopol. Equipped with a 3D phased array radar and 8 9M331 guided missiles, the Tor M2 could detect targets up to 20 miles away, engaging small, fast, low-flying threats like drones, helicopters, or cruise missiles at ranges from 0.6 to 10 miles and altitudes from 33 feet to 33,000 feet. With a reaction time of just 7.5 seconds from target lock to missile launch, neutralizing the Tor M2 was critical for Ukraine's precision UAV strike, requiring not only a direct hit, but also evading detection. HER's analysis showed the Tor M2 battery was positioned on a high point along the Kherson coast, less than a mile from the shore, providing full coverage of the approach corridor from the Black Sea. From this vantage, its radar could spot low-altitude targets before they crossed the horizon, enabling Russian units to intercept threats offshore. The system was the critical link between coastal air defenses and naval forces, serving as the sole low-altitude observation post for Western Crimea. Activating the Tor M2 radar required at least 2 minutes to raise the antenna, 3 minutes to power up, and nearly 10 minutes to sync with regional command. During this window, the system was effectively blind to threats, particularly low-flying UAVs with a radar cross-section as small as 0.11 square feet, making detection nearly impossible unless fully operational. At 4:10 a.m., as the Tor M2 radar antenna was being raised on a sandy strip about 0.75 miles from the coast, the system was still booting up, loading data, and calibrating, rendering it combat ineffective. From 1,600 feet above, a small Ukrainian reconnaissance UAV, deployed earlier for continuous monitoring, confirmed the radar had not locked on to any targets. Encrypted data was instantly relayed via satellite to the HER's Special UAV Operations Unit Command Center. Instead of risking a direct approach with armed drones, HER employed a two-layered attack tactic, deploying a decoy UAV to distract the enemy radar and a glide bomb to exploit the system's technical blind spot. The decoy UAV emitted signals mimicking a cruise missile's radar signature, while the glide bomb, made of composite materials with a radar cross-section of just 0.05 square feet, was guided by a military GPS system with an accuracy of less than 3 feet. At exactly 4:11:20 a.m., from a temporary launch site along Ukraine-controlled Kherson coast, roughly 7.5 miles from the target, the primary strike team launched 2 UAVs in a split salvo configuration. Immediately after launch, both drones cut active emissions and switched to encrypted GPS-aided inertial navigation, maintaining their course without revealing remote control signals. They flew at or below 49 feet, using sea clutter and coastal dune terrain to mask their approach. At the formation split point, decoy UAV-1 climbed to 130 to 165 feet, activating radar reflectors to amplify its signature, appearing on screens as a heavy glide munition. Traveling at about 75 miles per hour, it charged directly into the Tor-M2 radar's main sweep. The radar, not yet fully operational, prioritized locking on to the decoy, fixing its sweep and creating a blind corridor on the opposite side. Seizing this gap, UAV-2, a glide bomb, approached from the right flank, carrying an 18-pound EFP warhead optimized to penetrate the radar module without dispersing force. The EFP, explosively formed penetrator warhead, with a molten copper core, generated a hypersonic metal jet capable of piercing 12 inches of steel at 16 feet. At 4:12:57 a.m., UAV-2 struck the radar module and power system directly. The precise blast destroyed the control circuits, severed power lines, and collapsed the partially raised 3D antenna. Debris scattered over 165 feet, and the explosion's heat and smoke cloud disrupted all radar signals in the area, sowing panic among nearby Russian crews, who were unable to activate backup systems immediately. Within 3 minutes of detecting the radar in a non-locked state, the Tor-M2 was neutralized, leaving Crimea's western coastal low-altitude defenses blind. At Russia's Kherson command, reliant on the Tor-M2 as the sole low-altitude early warning system, monitoring capabilities collapsed. This opened the window for Phase 2, targeting naval assets at sea. At 4:14 a.m., 2 Russian Cerna-class amphibious vessels, carrying about 60 Marines each, were navigating quietly. Each 150-ton vessel, with a top speed of 40 miles per hour, was powered by 2,000 horsepower diesel engines and equipped with a Furuno navigation radar with a 12-mile range, but lacked active air defense or defensive guns. The Kurna vessel's radar showed only sea clutter, oblivious to the approaching threat, a fatal oversight. With the Tor-M2, the region's only low-altitude sensor, destroyed minutes earlier and no backup in place, the Kurna, a 82-foot high-speed amphibious vessel of steel-aluminum alloy, relied on minimal electronics, a short-range navigation radar, and satellite comms, with no air defense. No warships were nearby for support. Both Cerna-class vessels, part of a military transport group from a temporary dock at Cape Felland, aimed to land troops on the Kherson coast, where Russia was rebuilding a coastal artillery position with 2 S-19 Mista-S 152mm self-propelled guns, 15-mile range, and Grad 122mm rocket launchers to control the Sevastopol-Kherson sea route. As Cerna-1 sailed 1.4 miles from shore, Ukraine launched 3 small unmanned surface vehicles, USVs, from a covert base, each carrying 18 to 22-pound EFP warheads with delayed fuses designed to penetrate before detonating. The composite-hulled USVs, with a top speed of 37 miles per hour, used inertial navigation, GPS, and sonar to avoid underwater obstacles. Post-launch, the formation split. USV-1 targeted Cerna-1, USV-2 aimed for Cerna-2, and USV-3 trailed 1,600 feet behind as a reserve. Operating autonomously, the USVs used thermal imaging and radar reflection algorithms for target identification, ensuring precision in rough seas. At 4:49 a.m., 4 seconds after entering engagement range, USV-1 struck Cerna-1's port side amidships at an angle. The EFP warhead pierced the 0.3 to 0.4-inch steel aluminum hull, its hypersonic jet 6,562 feet per second, tearing through internal compartments before detonating. The secondary explosion, with 1,450 psi pressure, obliterated the ship's structure, igniting fuel lines and spreading fire within seconds. The blast destroyed Cerna-1's midsection, where troops, auxiliary fuel tanks, and equipment were located. Overpressure collapsed the ceiling, blew out the rear hatch, and created a vacuum effect. The ship listed portside and sank within 41 seconds by 4:15:30 a.m. Some Marines jumped overboard, others perished inside. Of the 60 Marines, 42 were killed, along with all equipment, including AK-12 rifles, RPG-30 launchers, and encrypted comms. Naval radar lost Cerna-1's signal instantly. 10 seconds later, USV-2 locked on to Cerna-2, 656 feet away. Detecting the explosion, Cerna-2 veered 15 degrees portside, but it was too late. USV-2, carrying a 20-pound fragmentation warhead with a contact fuse, targeted the bridge, housing navigation, comms, and radar systems. The warhead, with 3,000 steel fragments at 4,921 feet per second, was optimized for maximum damage in confined spaces. At 4:15:52 a.m., USV-2 struck Cerna-2's portside bow below the bulletproof bridge windows. The dual-effect blast, heat, and fragments penetrated the 0.3-inch steel, flooding the bridge with lethal force. Flames engulfed the consoles, destroying navigation, radar, and electronics within seconds. The ship didn't sink, but the crew shut down engines and abandoned the bridge. The drivetrain stopped, leaving the vessel adrift. All 6 bridge crew members died instantly. 4 others sustained severe shrapnel and burn injuries. USV-3, programmed as a finisher, was not needed. The operation concluded in 3 minutes. The entire attack, under 5 minutes, severed Russia's amphibious corridor at Kherson. Notably, no glide munitions were real-time controlled. They operated near fully autonomously. HUR engineers pre-programmed flight paths, activation times, approach altitudes, and aim points using weeks of reconnaissance data. The Kherson Cape Fouland area near strategic Sevastopol served as Russia's forward staging zone with rapid landing sites, Black Sea shortcuts, and coastal artillery and missile deployments. This area hosted 12 Grad 122mm launchers, 12-mile range, 4 EMSTA-S guns, 3 Tor M2 systems, and 2 Panzer S1 complexes, forming a multi-layered defense. By striking here, Ukraine inflicted immediate damage and forced Russia to reposition its defenses, slowing recovery and creating tactical gaps for future operations. Russia had to pull coastal air defenses 3 miles inland to avoid similar close-range UAV attacks, reducing Tor M2 radar coverage by 30% and leaving a defense gap from 33 to 6,562 feet. Small vessel landings were halted due to exposed radar and UAV threats, making Russian ships vulnerable to drones and anti-ship missiles like Neptune. The operation showcased Ukraine's shift to coordinated, multi-layered UAV formations, overwhelming Russian defenses unable to discern real threats, leading to delayed or preemptive hits. Militarily, the June 24 attack was a localized raid, but strategically, it signaled Crimea's vulnerability onshore and offshore. No air defense, amphibious vessel, or garrison was safe from unannounced strikes. Ukraine transitioned from pinpoint damage to systemic disruption, halting Russia's logistics, including 3 ammo depots near Cape Foulant and 2 fuel stations, slashing sustained combat capability by 40%. Russia's radar, artillery, and logistics chains were forced to retreat. Concurrently, Ukrainian UAVs were reported active in Skidovsk, Melitopol, and Novocherkassk. Western media showed Russian Black Sea coast air defense bases moving inland, with small warships restricted near shore. UR sources noted at least 5 Pantsir S-1 systems and 2 Voronezh DM early warning radars relocated 4 to 6 miles from the coast, cutting low-altitude detection from 25% to 15%. Ukraine's southern coast was temporarily unblockaded, exposing Crimea, once deemed an impregnable fortress, to UAV assaults.